Florida. They're founded by college football junkies just like you and I am not sure if you're familiar with Delta 8, but you need to be. Gramco is the absolute leader in this field, and they have phenomenal products that I just need to tell you about. First off is the Wake and Bake coffee that is absolutely spectacular. The gummies are as well, as they're the best in the market. So go to thegramco.com right now and use the promo code AYS25. That's thegramco.com, AYS25 promo code to get 25% off of your order. Jump on this fast, as it is perfect for holidays, anniversaries, and everyday use. Gramco is hemp-derived and completely legal inside of the state of Louisiana. No medical card is needed, and shipping is very discreet. You must be 21 years older to order. Again, that's thegramco.com. Use that promo code AYS25. All right, ladies and gentlemen, bring him on.
I like it.
Bring him on in. Tj Pittinger, double fries, no slaw, covers the Florida State Seminoles. My man got the Gramco hat on and everything. What's happening?
Yeah. It's at this point, it's just in this point in the day, it's just find something to cover this up. So yeah, I've got, this is the one I wore, a few minutes ago. Yeah, it's just, got to cover that up. So how are you doing?
I'm doing the same thing. And TJ, we're doing well. I'm doing the exact same thing. Buddy, Link Jarrett. I mean, talk about an absolute steal, my man.
Yeah, not to be too punny, but yeah, it's slam dunk or home run or whatever you want to call that. I don't know that Florida State could have gotten a better coach that was realistically available, which he wasn't available, right? He was in the World Series when all this was going down. So it probably cost us Tommy Tanks. He was a heavy FSU lean.
Right.
But didn't want to wait the time. From what I was told, didn't want to wait the time that it would have taken for Link to be announced. But you're hoping that Link's successful for 3 decades, right? You're not going to trade a year or two player. Probably cost us that, but probably worth it long term. And so yeah, big hire for the baseball team, and so we'll kind of see how all that works out. You guys have been killing it, not only with Tommy, but the portal's been kind to you guys.
It has. I mean, LSU baseball is a mind of its own. Tommy Tanks being one of them. That was literally my first question to you, though, TJ, other than Link. The fan base. I mean, obviously you want Link. You want generations worth of winning College World Series, hopefully a title. And even in missing out on Tommy Tanks, I mean, it's not a bit as big of a deal as going and getting the right head coach, right? I mean, that's what the fan base is feeling.
Yeah, for sure. And, they always say that in football, right? When they're talking about firing a coach or not firing a coach, it's like, oh, well, our recruiting class is going to fall apart. Well, recruiting classes are important, but if you make the right hire, he's going to be there for 10, 20 years. Whereas, a good recruiting class might be there for 3, right? So, I think that, I think they made the right decision for sure. And the fan base, I think it was like there was so much excitement around Link. It was the worst kept secret in Tallahassee and in Seminole Nation. Like everybody kind of knew what was coming. The dang broadcasters were saying it during the games, right? And so
Right.
I think that everybody kind of knew what was happening, but for them to pull it off, it's like the Tommy news came out and everybody was like, all right, what it is what it is,
Right. Well, and it's interesting, man. I mean, Link is a really damn good coach. I mean, look what they've done. Look what they're doing, or what they were doing at Notre Dame. I mean, you can't ask for somebody better. And Florida State doing what they did to get him. You got to commend them for doing that. But, TJ, I know that you'll be in – I think you're going to be in New Orleans, though, week 1.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Awesome. But tell us, I mean, look, LSU fans have been asking me. We've been doing it in Twitter Spaces on the show. Let's talk some Florida State football and LSU. Man, Mike Norville going into his 3rd season had some bright spots. I mean, look, y'all faced Brian Kelly in week 1 against Notre Dame, and that came down to the wire. There's a lot of good pieces on this Florida State team. But what is the biggest strength that the Seminoles have, and maybe the biggest weakness right now?
Well, the biggest strength is Jordan Travis. And, at full health and full strength, Jordan Travis is the guy. And Florida State will go as far this year as he will take them. They've won 8 games the last 2 years. Not impressive, not great. He started 7 of those. The 8th one, he came in down 14 and led them to a comeback victory.
Right.
So Florida State went 5-3 in games that Jordan Travis started last year. 2 of those losses were one of the ones you mentioned, Notre Dame, and then Florida at the end of the year. He missed multiple drives. Obviously, had he been in there, maybe they, who knows what happens. The third one was Clemson. So like they, and that one they even had a chance late. So they literally just win every time he plays. I mean, such a gamer. So anyway, yeah, that's the biggest strength. The biggest strength is Jordan Travis. A lot of continuity, a lot of guys coming back. I believe they return the 11th most production in the NCAA is the stat that I read. And so obviously the team wasn't great last year, finished 5-7, but they do return a lot of production. There's a lot of continuity there. I also think that every position group on the team on paper got better with the exception of probably defensive end because you lose Jermaine Johnson and Kiara Thomas. So I'm not like leaps and bounds better, which, Marshall's asking about it here. You don't, you just don't but I think the secondary is better, and we can talk about some of those guys. I think the linebackers are better. They got a transfer from UCF that led the team in tackles. I think the interior of the defensive line is better. And so I think they're better in every other spot. And so, yeah, you don't. There's no way to replace him. But if you can get everybody else to kind of chip in and get better, you don't notice that glaring weakness that is, a first-round draft pick.
So you talked about, obviously, a quarterback. You talked about some of the strengths. Is there a position group that, for LSU, it's obviously either wide receivers or defensive line, which it normally is historically, or DB. What unit will you guys lean on the most to have the success and get over the 5-7 and make a bowl game, or hell, make a run for the ACC?
Yeah, I mean, I think that wide receivers are a position that has to step up the most, right? And, you asked what our greatest – I'll back up just a little bit. Our greatest strength is Jordan Travis. Our greatest weakness is also potentially Jordan Travis because if he's not there, and I'm not calling Travis a weakness, but just his availability is huge, right? If he's not there – and now saying that, most teams cannot operate when their starting quarterback goes down, right? It's pretty rare that a team is good. I mean, look at the NFL, look at college football. There are very few situations where a backup comes in and can really beat good teams. But because of his style of play, because of the injury, concerns that he's had in the past, it's, I would not take the over on him playing every down, that happens this year. So the wide receivers have to step up. They, David Hale of ESPN ranked the wide receivers at Florida State 14th going into last year. He was dead on, absolutely spot on, great. The wide receivers were so bad last year. That position group was so bad that we thought that our secondary was good because they just shut everybody down. They shut the wide receivers down in practice. They were just so bad that our mediocre type defensive backs look like Deion out there. So the wide receivers have to step up and have to be better. And I think they will be. They've added 4 guys from the transfer portal. One of those, Winston Wright, very, very productive, gets in a car accident, breaks his leg. He should be back in time. I don't know how productive he'll be in the early part of the year because he obviously missed the full spring. Don't know how much of the fall he'll get, but he should play against LSU. We have kind of a tune-up game in week 0 against Duquesne, which I think is a big, big benefit to Florida State. But the wide receivers have to step up and be better. And like I said, every group theoretically got slightly better this year. And so if you can, every group gets a little bit better, you go from 5-7 to maybe 7-5 or 8-4. But the wide receivers have to be better for sure.
So on the defensive side, you talked about obviously secondary, linebackers, and defensive line as a whole getting better. Is that obviously the unit and the side of the ball that y'all are going to have to – I mean, I know Mike Norville is an offensive guy, but are y'all going to have to lean a whole lot more on the defense to get Florida State back on track if they're getting that much better on that side of the ball?
Yeah, I think that the defense is going to be a lot better. They flashed a lot last year, and they have a lot of pieces. A couple of guys that didn't go to the NFL that were kind of rumored on leaving. Jamie Robinson in the secondary, Akeem Dent, not somebody that was leaving for the NFL or not, but somebody that I think in the secondary they'll really, really rely on. That might be the best safety duo in the Southeast. And I don't want to offend other people that may be listening and think that theirs are better, but those guys are really, really good. Cornerback is a position group that needs to continue to improve. There's some young guys there that I think will do really well for FSU as the year goes on. The interior of the defensive line, both Robert Cooper and Fabian Lovett could have potentially made NFL rosters. I don't know that they both get drafted. Fabo may have, but the middle of that defensive line, I think, is going to be really, really strong, make it really, really tough for teams to run. Pass rush won't be as good because I think that, you lose Johnson, but they did pick up a kid in Jared Verse who was kind of a freak athlete. And so linebacker, again, take a small step forward. They picked up a kid from UCF, Tatum Bethune, again, led them in tackles. So again, that room has been terrible for years. And so that will help for sure. And then Kalen DeLoach was our, kind of lead linebacker last year, and I expect him to be as well. So yeah, I mean, I think it's all of those units kind of like chipping in and raising the floor as well as the ceiling.
Wrong one. I'm looking for it, Pierce. Hold on. Oh, here it is. Pierce Lee says #ask Blake and ask TJ. Please, for the love of God, please ask him what's going on with Desmond Pazzan and Hill from Edna Carr.
So I have no clue. We were told, we kept being told that, hey, he's going to make it to campus. He's going to make it to campus. He's going to make it to campus. Back in December, that obviously didn't happen. When kids arrived in January. Then we were told, okay, he's going to make it over the summer. He's going to make it over the summer. The deadline for that, I believe, was the 20th. Well, a few days after the 20th, right, to get in for summer classes, the drop ad period. So when everybody else showed up on campus this summer and he didn't show up with them, I think it's pretty safe to assume that at this point he's just not going to make it into school. Nobody really knows why or where. I mean, there's rumors, there's stuff kind of being spread around. If you search enough message boards, you can kind of find out what's going on. But yeah, I don't expect him to be with FSU this year or probably ever. Not really holding out hope there anymore. Now that he's been out of football for 2 years at this point, right? Like, even if he did show up on campus, early August, like, how much of an impact can he really make? Like, maybe he's the best number 3 or 4 guy on the roster, right? Which, I mean, yeah, you need a third or fourth best wide receiver, but being out this long, not playing football for 2 years, be like a lowly ranked 3-star at this point if they were redoing the rankings. I'm not trying to crap on him, but
no, I think you're being generous, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. So at this point, it's like, whatever.
Let me ask you, and TJ, I don't know how to really ask it other than just coming out with it. But we have a couple comments in here, obviously, about Mike Norville and the seat being hot and things like that.
Sure.
How critical is it to be able for Florida State and Mike Norville's job to come to possibly New Orleans and beat an LSU and start getting back on track? Is this like I don't want to say a boom or bust, but are y'all there at Florida State with him?
I don't know. I don't know how important the singular game is. I saw somebody asked just about, if it's an absolute, if it's like an absolute like molly whooping or something, that would not bode well for FSU. But, when I look at Florida State's schedule, I think that this is a game that would be kind of a nice to have. Like, I don't think this game is crucial. I know sound like a complete loser by, saying that every game's not like the Super Bowl, but like, you're going to New Orleans, you're playing in LSU's backyard, you're playing another very talented SEC team who's a little down right now too, right? Like, I mean, you guys didn't have a fantastic year last year either. But, I think if Florida State was to go in and lose that game by 3 points, whatever the spread is, 3.5, 4 points, I don't think that would mean anything for Mike Norvell. I think when I kind of break down the schedule and I look at it, I think the toughest game is Clemson. Probably the second toughest game is at Miami. Third toughest is probably LSU. And then you're looking at like NC State and Florida and things like that. So, if you lose to LSU, but you beat all the teams that were worse than LSU, you're going to go 8-4. 9-3. So I don't think that this game is huge for implications to do with Norvell. Now, just in general, yeah, he needs to win 7 or 8 games or he's gone. I mean, you talked about Link Jarrett and Mike Michael Alford, our new AD, cut ways and parted ways with Mike Martin Jr., who, the Martin family had been around. Yeah, been around Florida State longer than the Bowden name had. So, I think that, we go 5-7 again this year. I think we'll be, coming back on here and talking about a hot board.
So TJ, I can't help but kind of just sit back and watch and listen. Jaden Rashada committed to Miami, and Florida and Miami were going at it. Spaces, Twitter, whatever it is. But the Florida State fan base was sitting there pointing and laughing in the most comical way of all time.
Yeah.
What's your take on all of this? The two big in-state schools fighting and arguing, and yet Florida State's just sitting there. What's the thought process behind all this?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like we've had enough national embarrassments, lately with like the Travis Hunter thing, and then we were really, really close on Amarius Mims, and we've had enough stuff go down that it's like it's nice that it's just not us for once.
Right.
So that that was the best part of it. Yeah, I mean, I was talking with Alex Atkins today, our offensive coordinator, and he basically said fans love recruiting so much, and I promise I'm going somewhere with this, but fans love recruiting so much because when in football, like you only get 12 chances, right? You only get 12 chances to talk crap. You only get 12 wins or losses a year. You only get 12. But in recruiting, you get like another 30. You get like another 30 times to feel that thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, whatever it is, right? Because you're going to take 25 kids or 5 transfer, whatever the number is, right? So anyway, just like when your team loses a big game, right? Like you guys love when Alabama loses no matter what. We love when Miami or Florida lose. And so we knew that one of them were going to lose on this kid. Like it didn't really matter who it was. Somebody was going to get laughed at. And so, yeah, the situation, they're all like disputing the on-3 numbers that were posted. And I don't know if those numbers are accurate or not because I've not seen a contract, but I know that they didn't, I would assume they didn't just get made up out of thin air. And so it's very interesting and it's very kind of telling. I mean, obviously we know that NIL plays a part of things and, you deny because you don't want the NCAA to come bring the hammer down. So, it sounds like, Miami may have not even had to make the biggest offer. I think that, just whatever's going on at Florida right now, which seems to be a dumpster fire, they just didn't want any part of that. And so, I thought the saga of Rashada was interesting, but it was a lot of fun to watch as somebody that had no dog in the fight for sure. I was hoping somebody just asked about Jimbo. I was hoping Jimbo would swoop in and take him so I could laugh at both of them, but he let me down for sure. Yeah, I've let the whole Jimbo thing go until last week. I really wanted him to do me a solid there.
Are fans in Tallahassee still a little bitter about Jimbo, or what are they thinking?
I think most people have moved on past the initial, like, I hate you thing, right? Like when your ex leaves you or whatever. So I think that, that is gone mostly. I still think that there is a dislike just for the sake of how they feel he left, how they don't think that he really did any recruiting that last year after they lost to Alabama in 2017. He just basically stopped and kind of knew he was leaving and threw in the towel, which is disappointing and upsetting, especially when you hire a guy like Link Jarrett and, he finishes out his season and won't let anything be announced until he can meet with his team and this, that, and the other. So, yeah, I think there's a little bit of like sour grapes there, but, make no bones about it. I think Florida and Miami play A&M this year, and Florida State fans will absolutely be cheering for A&M the entire way. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like there's a little bit of an annoyance there, but at this point it's water on the bridge. He's moved on. They've moved on. I don't think they hate him as much as they used to.
How much do you guys monitor NIL at Miami right now? I mean, look, you can't help but notice, okay? I mean, what is out there? Like you said, TJ, it kind of is like, I don't know if I believe what's being said or if I do or if I don't. But how much are people at Florida State monitoring what Cristobal is doing?
Yeah, I mean, Cristobal, he's never been one that people thought wasn't a good recruiter. I mean, I think that, that's always kind of been his MO. and he's down there in a really, I mean, he was a good recruiter at Oregon, right? And so now he's down in a talent-rich area. The knock on Cristobal has always been his in-game coaching, right?
Right.
You know, he out-recruited Utah, but they beat his brains in, right, twice in the last season. And so, you know, he also did less with more when he, you know, didn't get very much out of Herbert, you know? And so, like, I think that the knock on Cristobal is certainly not his recruiting ability. And I think Miami will recruit very well. It's, can he put enough of a good staff around him for those on the field problems to take care of themselves? So, yeah, I mean, you know, anytime one of your big rivals makes a big splash hire that the media loves, and the national hype and everything around it, you know, you take notice, and you're like, man, you know, we're going to lose out to some kids because of this. And Cristobal is going to do a good job on that. So it's monitoring for sure. It's kind of noticing it. But at the end of the day, Florida State's roster right now is not in that different of a place than Miami's is.
Agreed.
You know, 3-point game last year. I'd imagine it'll be another 1-score game this year against Miami. And so I think that if Florida State does what it needs to do and gets to that 7, 8, maybe 9 with a bowl game wins, they'll recruit really, really well and kind of be on their way back. And if not, you said, I think they'll have a new coach. And so then it'll be, okay, well, what kind of splash did they make with Cristobal? But yeah, I think he'll recruit really, really well there. Like, I don't, you know, I think they'll finish the top 10 class this year. I think they're, you know, a little bit crazy thinking they can get top 5. I think that's maybe a little bit out of reach, but we'll see how their wins and losses finish up. Their schedule's not too tough. So, but yeah, I think he's going to be a problem on the trail. We'll see how good he is, you know, on the field.
We almost went the entire.
Oh man, Destin Hill and Deion Sanders in the same interview.
Yeah, we almost went the entire 20 minutes, TJ, without. I was done, you know. But they say bring up Deion, so let me ask. I mean, let me ask a very loaded question. How much does the Travis Hunter thing put Deion on some form of a map from a coaching rank? And TJ, I mean, just bluntly, is there any possibility that you think that Deion Sanders at any point can be in the next couple of years the new head coach at Florida State?
I don't think that they would hire Deion without any Power 5 experience because they just did that and it didn't work out, right? The one thing that I think Deion, you talk about him going now, could he go to a place like Louisville, right? And do really well there for a couple of years and then get a big time job like a Florida State or, you know, one of these, you know, I kind of consider Florida State like a top 15-ish program all time. So like, could he get there, you know? And so like, maybe that could, you know, if he does well, the thing that Deion's going to have anywhere he goes, is the list of players he's bringing with him, right? Like I'm bringing Travis Hunter and the boys, right? And so like if he's to leave, that could be really, really good and be more attractive for a program again, like a Louisville, like a, you know, a Power 5, but maybe not your upper echelon, top 15, top 20 program ever. So yeah, I think it certainly puts him on the map because again, he's going to come in with more talent. At the end of the day, it is about the talent on your roster. And so I just don't think that would be Florida State to start. I don't think it would be, you know, very first Power 5 job being Deion Sanders, even with the ties, even with the talent. I just can't imagine that would be the direction the team goes or the university goes. Sorry.
So everybody that we're asking that covers a program that's either on LSU schedule, SEC, whatever, we ask them at the end, TJ, if you are shaking your crystal ball, the magic 8 ball, and it gives you a record for Florida State at the end of the season, what is that prediction for you? And I forgot to ask you about the crossover, the permanent crossovers the ACC just now.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, let's do the easy one first. I like the crossovers. I like it a ton. You know, a lot of people wanted Florida State to get Georgia Tech just because they're so close together geographically. I don't think Georgia Tech was a big fan of having Clemson and Florida State on their roster annually.
So brutal.
Which makes sense. Florida State has the toughest 2 yearly opponents in Clemson and Miami, right? And so, right. But you wouldn't, you know, I spoke with, you know, somebody within our athletic department yesterday, and we didn't want to give up in either one of those games. We knew that those were going to, you know, we walked in the meeting room basically saying, yeah, like we know these are our 2 games just let us know who our third one is. And so got Syracuse for the last one. I think that's fine. I think you kind of want, I mean, you're playing the toughest two. You'd kind of like an easy one. I wouldn't have minded Duke just so it's not such a long trip up to Syracuse. But I think you want an easier one for sure. But even without having Georgia Tech, I mean, you're going to play there 3 times in the next 5 years based on the way the rotations work. I really like it. I imagine the SEC will do something similar soon, and those will be really, really interesting to see because there's just so many good SEC rivalries. And I obviously paid the most attention to Florida, but Florida and Tennessee and Florida, Kentucky, Florida and you guys, Florida and Georgia. I mean, obviously they'll keep Georgia, but yeah, how those will work out and the rivalries and stuff that will get broken up. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. Like you just can't play everybody every year, but it gives you a chance to see more places and go more places. And so I like the 3-3-5 or 3-5-5 setup. As far as our record this year, I mean, again, I think there are 4 games on FSU's schedule that are just absolutely can't lose games. Duquesne, Louisiana, who lost a lot of talent, obviously their head coach and half their, 3/4 of their staff. Syracuse.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Syracuse and Georgia Tech. So Florida State's got to go 4-0 in those games. If they lose any of those, obviously weird things happen, but you really can't lose any of those. Mm-hmm. I have them down for like 3 probable losses. That's the Clemson game. Actually, probably just like 2 probable losses, like games I just would not touch Florida State. That's Clemson and at NC State in Raleigh. I think those are going to be really, really tough. So you're looking at 4-2. And then I think you've got, a bunch of coin flips. Boston College is going to be a coin flip. Louisville is going to be a coin flip. Miami's a rivalry game. That's going to be a coin flip. Florida's a rivalry game. That's going to be a coin flip. I truly think the LSU game could go either way. I mean, I'd certainly pick LSU slightly, if that game was to happen today, but that game could go either way. I mean, Vegas is telling you it's a 3.5-point spread in Louisiana. So I don't think that's like some big runaway. So I think in those coin flips, you've got to find a way to go like 4-2, right? Like you've got to win more of your coin flips than you don't. I really like them to finish at 7-5. If they can beat LSU, if they can start out the year 2-0, because they'll beat Duquesne week 0. If they can beat LSU, I think they can find a way to 8 wins. They lose to LSU, I think they finish with 7, unless maybe you upset somebody else along the way. So 7-5 is my official. 8-4 would be really, really good coming off a 5-7 year.
Go follow him on Twitter at TJ_Pittinger and Double Fries No Slaw. My man, give him a round of applause. Fantastic. And he's a dad for the 3rd time, right? A new dad.
You could probably hear the
you're good.
You could probably hear the baby screaming in the background. So yeah, like we're 6 weeks into the 3rd round here. So prayers up from your people. Yeah.
Right. Me
We're
too.
out of here. This one was a little bit of surprise. Mike's like, no more surprises. We're out.
I feel you. Hey, buddy, thank you so much for coming on. We'll have to have you on before the season starts again, and this was a blast.
Absolutely. You guys have a good one. Thank you.
You too, man. That's TJ Pittinger, who covers Florida State. Double the fries, no slaw. Fan-freaking-tastic. Gramco, baby. You know what we should call it? The Gram.